find the perimeter or area of a rectangle given one of these values. Right. So in these problems, you're going to, just like the title says, be finding perimeter or area of a rectangle. You're going to either be given perimeter or you'll be given area, and then you're finding the other value. There's a little bit of work to be done here, but they're not bad. So we'll do one where we start where we're given the perimeter, and we'll do one where we're given the area. So the length of a rectangle is 5 yards longer than its width. If the perimeter of the rectangle is 46 yards, find its area. There are two important formulas that you need to know for this section. So you need to know the perimeter of a rectangle. The perimeter of a rectangle is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. And the area of a rectangle is the length times the width. So we're told that the length of a rectangle is 5 yards longer than its width. That means, so the length is 5 yards longer than its width is going to be W plus 5. Now there's a tendency here to want to say 5W. 5W would mean 5 times the width. So if this problem said the length of a rectangle is 5 times the width, we would go ahead and say 5W. But if we're saying 5 yards longer than its width, then we're going to say W plus 5. And we know that the perimeter of the rectangle is 46 yards, so the perimeter is equal to 46. We're going to take this information and plug it into our perimeter formula over here, and then we'll be able to solve for W. So we have the length, we have the perimeter. We're going to use the formula 2L, P is equal to 2L plus 2W. I'm going to replace this L right here with W plus 5, and I'm going to replace this P right here with 46. So 46 is equal to 2 times, it's important to use parentheses here, W plus 5 plus 2W. I'm going to distribute and I'm going to solve. So I have 46 is equal to, distribute the 2, 2W plus 10 plus 2W. Combine your like terms on the right-hand side. 46 is equal to 4W plus 10. Subtract 10 from both sides. You have 36 is equal to 4W. Divide by 4, and go back a page, 9 is equal to W. Now, careful, we get really excited, we're like, oh, found an answer, good to go. We found the width, however, this problem asked for its area. So we have a width, the area formula requires a length and a width. We have the W part. To find the length, we're just going to use this formula over here. So pulling this formula over here, we know W is equal to 9, length is equal to W plus 5. So that's 9 plus 5, which is 14. That's going to give us enough information to use this formula right here and find the area. Area is equal to length times width. The length is 14. The width is 9. So 14 times 9 will give you 126. It's not going to ask you for units, but your units would be yards squared. But it's just going to ask for this part right here. So your answer for this guy would be 126 yards. So let's look at it in the other way, where we're given the area and we want to find the perimeter. So the length of the rectangle is 6 times its width. If the area of the rectangle is 384 meters squared, find its perimeter. Sometimes students get a little caught up in this whole meters squared thing and think that maybe you need to square the 384, but that's not true. This meters squared is just a unit. It's saying that we measure area in squares. We don't measure it in lines, right? A meter is like a line. That's not how we measure area, but don't get too caught up in that. Again, we're going to need the two formulas we talked about before. We need to know that the perimeter is equal to 2L plus 2W, and we need to know that the area is going to be length times width. In this case, we were given the area. And we you're also given some information about the length of the rectangle. It says that the length of the rectangle is 6 times its width. So the length is equal to 6w. So 6 times its width will be 6 times w, same thing as 6w. 6 meters more than its width would be 6 plus w. So that times word is really important there. We're going to take these values and plug them into the area formula. So area is equal to length times width. The area is 384 equals the length is 6w, and then it's times, times w. W times w will be w squared, so this comes out to be 384 equals 6w squared. To solve for w, we're going to divide by 6 first. So we have 384 divided by 6, which is 64. 64 is equal to w squared. Now, this is something we haven't quite done before, so kind of hold on tight. 64 is equal to w squared. The way that we would solve for w here, we would take the square root of both sides. So this isn't something we go into much in Math 95, but when you have a w squared, when you have a variable squared and a number on the other side, the way you solve for it is taking the square root. So the square root of w squared will turn out to be w. On your calculator, there's a square root button, and the square root of 64 is 8. It's essentially what number, when squared, gives me 64. So the width is equal to 8, but that's not the end of the story. We want to find its perimeter, and the perimeter formula requires length and width. So if I take my width and I plug it back into my length formula, I can get the length, and then I can use the perimeter formula. So let's see. The length is equal to 6w. So we have 6 times 8, which is 48. So at this time what we have that w is equal to 8, L is equal to 48, and then we're plugging it into the perimeter formula, 2L plus 2W. So we have 2 times 48 plus 2 times 8. So we're going to have 96 plus 16, which is going to give us 112. And the units are meters. It already fills in the units for you, but 112 for the perimeter. So in either direction, just start using the formula for whatever you're given. So if you're given the area, use the area formula to begin with. If you're given the perimeter, use the perimeter formula to begin with. And then you'll be using the other formula in the end to plug in both the length and the width and find the result. And that's all there is to these problems.